Welcome all of you to our CLC webinar series. If you're just now joining, we just got started. Today we are going to be focusing on a presentation called Sustainable Financing Mechanisms for Texas Communities. This is the City Efficiency Leadership Coalition, a webinar series that I will talk a little bit more about who is sponsoring and for us to have this continuing series throughout our focus for the state of Texas and Oklahoma. It's going to be presented by Shahara, and I'm very excited for her joining us, and I'll tell you more about her in a moment. Today, I'm just going to share about what this webinar is about. We're going to be introducing the Clean Energy Fund of Texas, also known as CEFTX. It's a national leader in promoting clean energy solutions. During this session, you'll learn who they are, what drives their mission, and the impactful programs they offer to enable communities to access sustainable financing and drive energy efficiency forward. We'll be exploring a Sustainable Financing Accelerator program they have, gain insight into statewide efforts to support local clean energy initiatives and stimulate economic growth and foster resilient communities, as well as how financing options empower residents in Texas and Oklahoma to make clean energy upgrades. So these webinars, the CLC webinars, are intended to extend the conversation about public sector energy management best practices through education, training, and discussion. If you have any questions or an idea for future webinars, please reach out to me through our email, cities@eepartnership.org, and I will put that email in the chat later. So this is sponsored by the Houston Advanced Research Center, and as well as funded by the State Energy Conservation Office. So thanks again for joining us for this series. A little bit about SPEAR. We are a regional energy efficiency organization, a membership-based nonprofit 501c3, and our mission is to accelerate the adoption of advanced building systems and energy efficient products and services in the South Central US. We cover Texas and Oklahoma. We do this by several ways through trainings, policy resources, so promoting policies that advance energy efficiency technology, research, and other innovations, as well as science-based resources and trainings, and the program that I manage, the Coalition for Energy Efficiency Leadership Coalition. So a few announcements and housekeeping. We will be presenting and putting this webinar on our SPEAR YouTube channel, and all ICC CEUs will be mailed out within 3 days. In order to receive them, you do need to provide a response to the survey for the CEUs. As well as I do want to mention that any questions, please you can put them in the chat box or in the question and answer area. Upcoming events, you can check that out on our calendar. Our next webinar is going to be maximizing your grant success from application to award. We're very excited about that, as well as our CLC virtual coffee hour. We also have several resources that I can share in our chat. But without further ado, I'm going to give more time to Shahara Wright. She is the Vice President and General Counsel at Clean Energy Fund of Texas. She's an accomplished CEO, a highly skilled business and nonprofit law attorney, and a strategic business consultant with over 25 years of distinguished performance in both legal and business sectors. She's been recognized by the Houstonia magazine, naming her the top lawyer for 3 consecutive years, and was named the Texas Super Lawyers by Thomson Reuters in 2024. Congratulations on that, Shahara. And she holds a Juris Doctor from Texas Tech School of Law and a bachelor's degree from Hampton University. Without further ado, I'm going to stop and let you share.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and joining. I'm really excited to present to you all really this is sort of my first, you guys are my guinea pig, my first time presenting on specifically for Clean Energy Fund of Texas. I've done a lot of CLEs and things like that for lawyers, but this is the first time I've gotten the opportunity to present about our organization. And so I'm really excited to do this. So hopefully I won't confuse anybody and you guys will be excited to hear what we have to say. So I wanted to give you just a brief overview and understanding of Clean Energy Fund of Texas. Hopefully you can see my pointer here. Stephen Brown, the second, we have another Stephen Brown, which I'll talk about again so soon, is our founder and chairman emeritus. And Steve really was the brainchild behind Clean Energy Fund of Texas. And it really is a result of his journey through discovering issues around clean energy, solar, and wanting to do more in the communities that didn't have access and wanting to make sure that everyone had access. And it was probably a 10-year journey that led him to saying, okay, let's start a green bank. And it was that thought and that idea that was the birth of Clean Energy Fund of Texas. And as you guys know, you can't do this work alone, right? You have to really have a conglomerate of friends, partners, collaborations, and supporters to want to do this work. And he has been fortunate enough to be able to bring those people together, some of which are on the board of directors that you can see here. And then also our initial team, right, of people who are here to assist with Clean Energy Fund of Texas. So when we first started, most of us, as we were working as contractors and outside in June, once we got our Solar for All award, which I'll talk about later, we started becoming employees and hired on, as you see here. So we have our CEO, Billy Briscoe, myself, which is Vice President, General Counsel, Mr. Steve Brown Sr., which is Steve Brown II's father, is our Executive Vice President and Chief Credit Officer. We have our Chief Information Officer, Sandeep Loka, our Head of People, Brooke Abbots. Theo Woodard is our Business Development Manager and of the consumer loans, which I will talk about soon as well. Shannon Ramirez Conklin is our Chief of Staff. Teresa Morales is our program director for Solar for All, and I'll talk more about her as well. And last but not least is our external communications person, PR, Oliver Bernstein. And this is a really great picture. This is from our first board retreat, and we had a 3-day event where we brought all of our collaborators, partners, key people that really helped get Clean Energy Fund off the ground, also helped with getting our Solar for All grants as well. And so you kind of see here that this is who we will deal with. And it's very diverse in terms of backgrounds and understandings and how we all look at things and how we approach things. And that really has made what's really key about Clean Energy Fund of Texas is that we really believe that it takes a village, and we make sure that we bring other people into the fold who are necessary to get this work done. And our mission is that, we believe in an equitable transition to clean energy. This is going to mitigate the climate crisis. A lot of people who talk about clean energy and renewable energy, they're not necessarily in the marginalized, low income, disadvantaged communities. And these are the communities that suffer the most. These are the communities that need the most support. And that's really what we look to do. We look to reduce these barriers to energy security. We also look to create green jobs and catalyze economic development opportunities in historically under-resourced communities. So it's so important that we stick to our mission, and everything that we do really goes towards that process. So we have like 9 core values, and I did not want to go through all 9 core values. So I pulled out a couple of core values that I think just kind of go across everything that we do. And I've talked about this a little bit, and I'll probably continue to talk about this as we go through this process, which is equity and justice, is, you know, really something that's important to what we do and how we do it. It really has to do with ensuring, as I said, that the least of us have access. And this is how we think about everything that we do and how we move forward and how we look at in terms of programming and who we work with to ensure that we make that goal. Obviously, access, as I said, was very important to that. Collaboration is key. We can't do this work alone. And sustainability. It doesn't help, right, if it's not going to last over a period of time, if it's not going to last throughout the years, if it's not going to have some cumulative effect. And so we look at it as a data-driven approach to how we are going to deal with these issues, tackle these issues, and ensure that whatever we do has meaning. And that's really the thing that we look at the most. So let's talk about this. So I am not really in the energy space. I didn't come from an energy space. I didn't really come from a renewable energy, clean energy space. I obviously am an attorney, but I really worked with a lot of nonprofits doing more social work, more work within the communities in different space. And so when I first came into Clean Energy Fund, a lot of conversation was around energy burden. And I really did not understand what that was. I didn't know what that meant. So naturally, I had to look it up and figure it out. And so I thought once I heard and understood what this meant, it made all of this work kind of come together and make so much more sense for me that it's now something I say, okay, this is something that's so important in the basis of what we do when we're talking about equity and justice and access. Energy burden is a really big part of that. So energy burden is the percentage of household income that goes to energy costs. So we're talking about electricity, home heating, transportation, right? So all of this cost, right, that goes to what you put in for energy, right, to heat your home, to make sure that you have access to AC, roofing, insulation, all of those kinds of things, that cost against your total household income. And for some people, that percentage is greater than others. And I think about this just as living in Houston and having all of these natural disasters that come our way, where you may have hurricanes, which we just had Hurricane Beryl. I was out of lights for a week and had to leave and go to Austin to stay so that I could have, you know, air, and my kids and the dog and the turtle and everything else, you know, went with me. I think about, you know, 2 years ago when we had a heat wave and it was 100 degrees every day for 3 months. I think about the freeze that we had and not being able to have access, right, to heat and water pipes bursting and all of these different things that we have. And for certain income levels, while it hurts, right, while it is something that is very expensive and that you have to deal with, you have the ability to make those changes and make those payments. And when you have higher water bills and you have higher electricity or gas because of these natural disasters, it hurts, but you can pay for it. There's obviously a segment of our community that they don't have the option. They have to make the choice between their ability to eat. They have to make the choice between their ability to get access to medicine. Sometimes they're making choice between, hey, I've got to pay my rent to keep a roof over my head versus paying my electricity bill. Maybe I'll just stay without lights and water for a certain amount of time because I can't pay all of this at one time. That's what this energy burden is. And that's a big decision, obviously, that affects the lives of many people. And when you think about it, right? It's a large amount of people. Sometimes we don't realize how big of a problem this is because maybe we don't come across enough people in our circles of friends and communities that we don't see it. But of all US households, 40% are defined as 44%, I'm sorry, are defined as low income. That is a huge amount of money on people. That's a lot. And so when you think about it, 44% are defined as low income. How does that affect the community as a whole? And the average energy burden for low income households is 8.6%. That's 3 times higher than for non low income households, right? So it's the families that are the least among us that are spending much larger percentages of their income on energy bills than families with more resources. And so I think about this in terms of, okay, if I'm hurting and I have resources, what is it like for the people that don't have resources and are facing the same problems? And this is really what we want to tackle here at Clean Energy Fund of Texas. So how do we do that? How are we looking at our approach in terms of the consumers and reaching and dealing with low income communities? And right now we have 3 main programs that we either have already started or about to launch, and I'm going to go through those programs. And I'm just checking in the chat, making sure we're good. So let's start with our consumer loan program. So I showed you guys Theo Woodard. Theo is over our consumer loan program. And the consumer loan program is really the crux of what we do here. It really gives access to people to get energy efficient access to their homes and actually be able to take advantage of like solar rooftop, getting new roofs, getting HVAC, all of that, which we call our weatherization program. What our process is that we work with contractors. And so we have over 100 contractors that are on our list right now, and we're always looking to get more. And we work with small, mid-sized contractors to find out who they're working with, who are they connecting with in the community. And you know, the contractors will go to the house, some go door to door, maybe somebody called them and they want to put in a new HVAC system. And if any of you have had the displeasure of having to replace the HVAC systems, you know that it can be quite expensive to do so. And you have to look at these different lending programs to be able to get a loan. So when you have a contractor come, they may have some lenders that they work with already, or sometimes you'll go to a different bank. And so we want to be one of those lenders that the contractors work with. But we want to also make sure that the contractors are legitimate. We want to vet them. So they have to have good standing with the Better Business Bureau. They have to have exhibited good practices for no less than 2 years. And you want to make sure that the proposals are shown and accepted by the homeowners are properly sized and priced, right? We don't want someone that's paying $30,000 for an HVAC system and they make $30,000, you know, for a year, or you know they have a really small home and there could be something that's obviously less expensive for them that would not create more of a financial burden on these individuals. So there's a process that each of the contractors go through, and we're always looking to figure out how the best way to vet these contractors and ensure that we don't cause problems and that we have a program that is helpful, not hurtful. What's on the consumer side really makes a big difference is we have very low interest loans. They're all probably between, you know, maybe 5 and 9% at this moment. There's no dealer fee. We don't provide any credit checks so that, you know, we can help these demographics that are burdened to have less. And so a couple of examples is that we had the Scott family who had damage to their roof from hurricane, and the insurance would not pay for it. They wouldn't take care of it, so they were going to have to cover the roof for themselves. We were able to work with the contractor and the family in order to get a new roof. and put that on. And it was helpful for them because we didn't have to do a credit check, and it was very low interest loan. And now they're looking at also doing solar on their rooftop with battery backup. And so this is kind of one of the things that the consumer loan program does, is gives people access when they don't really don't have it otherwise. This is something that we do and we bring it to the table. So you can see here some of the consumer loan program that we have. Solar is of course very popular, but we also do weatherization and insulation, roof, as I gave you guys example before. HVAC is something that's also very important, especially in the summer times. That tends to go up a lot. Sewer and water, lighting, storm resilience, and then disability retrofits sometimes gets overlooked because as you have an aging population, maybe the homeowner can no longer walk up the front porch of their stairs and they need to have a ramp put in, or maybe they need the doors to the bathroom widened, or they need to have rails put in so that they walk and get through their own home. And so this is something that's also very important, that's necessary, that sometimes gets overlooked, and not a lot of people will do loans for, because you have to have certain income levels and things like that in order to get these retrofits. And so this is something that's an important part of what we do. All right, so that is our consumer loan program. And now I know I'm going to get to the thing that I know a lot of people have have questions about. And so this is our Solar for All programs. Now I want to just make sure that I'm clear that there are two Solar for All programs in Texas. There's two organizations that got Solar for All money. That is the Texas Coalition, which is led by Harris County. And I'll talk about that soon. And then we, Clean Energy Fund of Texas, also received our own multi-state Solar for All program as well. We, Clean Energy Fund of Texas, are a part of both programs. We are part of the Texas Coalition program, and of course, we're running our own program, which is a multi-state. So the Texas Coalition is comprised of various cities and nonprofits and other counties coalitions to make up this program. So you'll see Harris County is the main part of it. You also have City of Houston, Dallas County, San Antonio, City of Austin, Waco, TEPRI as well, and we're a part of this as well. And nonprofit HARC as well is a part of this as well. Each program really has their own thing. So each city and county has their own process. They have their own way of doing things. And some of them are doing rooftop solar. Some of them are doing community solar. Some of them are doing retrofits. Some of them are doing industrial type work. They all kind of have their own feel. Clean Energy Fund, we have our own small program as well. And that is our rooftop solar program. So we have about 3.4 million from the Texas Coalition to provide financial assistance through interest rate buy downs, with the goal of encouraging homeowners to invest in rooftop solar panels. Our program will specifically work with cities and municipalities that are outside of the coalition. So the cities that are going to be chosen are going to be outside of the coalition. In partnership with HARC will be working with recruiting municipalities to take part in this, take part of NREL's solar app, where it kind of helps streamline the permitting process in order to do this. Those cities that take part in that place will get chosen. Probably about 3 cities will get chosen to be a part of this specific program, in which they will reach out to their constituents and the people that live there for rooftop solar. And we will work with banks, various banks who have been vetted and pre-qualified and that agree to work with low income and disadvantaged communities to be able to do lending for these projects. And then once that relationship has been established, so the homeowner takes out a loan, with Bank A. Bank A gives a rate of, let's just say, 6% to the homeowner. Then what we look to do is buy down that interest rate. So hopefully we can do this by up to 3%. So then if it's 6%, we can bring that loan rate down to 3% for the homeowner, and now they have a 3% loan. So this is really making it more affordable by lowering the cost of financing of the installation of the solar rooftop. And so that's our program. It's very limited in terms of the cities that we will be working with, but we hope to have a big impact because we're giving access to individuals in a way that they would not have normally had access. And do I have any questions about any of this stuff before? Here.
There are a few questions. Do you want to wait until the end of your presentation or do you want to approach them now?
Let's take them now so that I won't forget what I was talking
Okay, great. So where does the capital come from for the consumer loan program?
So right now, the capital has been coming from grant funds that we have received. That's where the capital comes from. We also have a partnership with an organization in Florida called SELF, where we are working with them to leverage some of their funds as well, which they get grant funds as well.
Okay. And are there participating lenders who you work with?
For the rooftops, for the consumer loan program.
Mm-hmm.
No, so right now we are not doing any other third-party lenders. Right now we're working with either with our own funds or with self funds. But we do look to partner with other lenders, and we're actively looking also for other partners to help leverage and be able to do that work as well so that we can expand it more in Texas.
And then here's another question. Are you seeking capital from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund for the consumer loan program?
Yes. That was the easiest question. Yeah.
Okay, and here, one more is, and this is for Solar for All. Are you looking at all at setting up a fund with Solar for All to cover bank risk? And this is in order to bring their interest rate down before directly buying it down.
Yeah, I not through this particular program for this rooftop solar program. It's just not enough funds to be able to do all of that with that risk here in this one. When we talk about our other solar for all, which I'll get to shortly, because I know that we'll have a lot of questions on that as well. That is a top priority in terms of trying to hedge that risk as well. But not this particular program. We're not doing that.
Okay, great. Well, those are all the questions that we have
All
so far.
right, great. Okay, thanks. Y'all were easy. So okay, I didn't get anything that was like, let me get back to you yet. So let's fingers crossed that I don't have to do that. So that's really like these two programs. So I know that a lot of you probably are going to have a lot of questions about our Solar for All program, which is a multi-state program. And so we are one of 5 nonprofit entities that were granted that our Solar for All grant was for a multi-state program. We've got 156 million for the deployment of residential serving community solar. And our program is really a model, which I will show you shortly. And I'll show you what that model looks like in just a moment. But it's a model. And the model requires a lot of different people and a lot of different organizations for it to work. It is one of those things that when you look at it, it sounds very complicated. It looks very complicated. It's a little bit nuanced, but if it works and when it works, it can be replicated pretty much anywhere with anything. And that's really what we're testing out. So in order to do this Solar for All program, we had to bring in a multidisciplinary team. Obviously, we talked about how important collaboration is to our organization and how important and necessary it is for us to think about who all is at the table when we're trying to get this work done. And one of the main centers of our Solar for All program is the Buller Center for Climate and Environmental Justice. they are an integral part of this because they are going to help us work with the colleges and universities that we're going to be working with. Texas Climate Jobs Project is helping us to develop a workforce and apprenticeship program with the colleges and universities. NREL is helping us with a lot of technical assistance and numbering and figuring out with the utilities what needs to happen. And NAB2, North America's Building Trade Unions, will also help in non-Texas areas with apprenticeships and job training. So this is our core team. And of course, we are always looking for more collaborators, more partners, more contractors to work with because, again, this work cannot be done alone. So now the question is, what is it? What are you guys doing? So this program is going to be throughout the South and Southeast network. We are going to be working with minority serving institutions, which are historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions, HSIs, and tribal colleges and universities throughout the South and Southeast network. And so the idea is that the universities will be a hub and they will be the host of the community solar. And the outcomes that we're hoping for was that the program will generate a household utility bill savings of 25% or more for a little more than 8,000 or a little less than 9,000 households and subscribers. This is kind of the role, right? The rule of the Solar for All program is that we have to have this utility bill savings of about 25%. And this is how many we expect to be able to serve throughout this process. The projects will drive an expected emission reduction of 3.14 million metric tons of CO2. And then we're looking to have at least 77 million in savings for those less than 9,000 frontline households. And then, of course, which also is integral to what we're doing, is about 1,900 new jobs resulting from the work that we're doing. And so you can see the states, 19 states is how many we're looking to do. It's a big project. And working throughout these 19 states, we hope to at least touch, one or two colleges in at least each of these states. And it's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to do that. So this is a bigger picture of what we're doing. I find that when I look at this little graphic here, it kind of gives me a headache sometimes because it's so much that's there. But if you can see my pointer, the host site, this is the minority serving institution. This is where our work is going to be done, right? This is where our work is going to be centered with identifying the minority serving institution, and working with that institution to get the community solar project off the ground. So that's where it's going to be hosted. And then, of course, as a part of it, right, because the model can't work unless all of these little pieces are put together, you have to work with the utility to ensure that the subscribers have access, right? And we want the subscribers to have access. And those are the subscribers around the surrounding neighborhoods around the university or the college or university. And you want them to be able to either get credits, right? Or to have some kind of financial incentive based on their usage of the community solar. And then also an opportunity up here is maybe having a special purpose entity, special purpose a vehicle for community-based organizations for ownership. Which would allow also the community to be able to own either the panels or do a lease of the panels for capacity's sake as well. So that's something that we look to do to be able to kind of create this community model where you're not only getting household savings based on your energy, but you're also being able to produce income for yourself as well. And within this, obviously, building and creating jobs. And how we plan on doing this is really a three-phase strategy. Really probably is four, but we looked at it in three phases. Right now, I guess I'm going to call this phase zero. We are actually we've put together a questionnaire, an interest form for potential MSIs to go and say, hey, we're interested. We want to look into this. We want to learn more. We have stuff on our website for people to go and get interest forms and understand more about what we're doing. So doing that intake first, right? So the more people we kind of get into that funnel, the more MSIs that we touch base with, have contact with, we can start doing that initial reach out communication and discussion around what this Solar for All project is. As we're going along, we're going to do phase one, which is the exploration. So out of all of the MSIs that we contact, and remember, this is a 5-year grant. So over all of that 5-year period, we expect that at least 80 of those will come through what we call our phase one exploration program phase. And that will be kind of more partnership discovery, feasibility analysis, community visioning, assets, and needs assessment. This is really going to say, is this really going to work? Does this really make sense? Are the things in place necessary for us to move forward? So you want to engage the decision makers, any community-based organizations. You want to engage the utilities, developers, city and state relationships. You want to start this community visioning process. You want to kind of start having all of these conversations with everyone to see where we are. And in phase two, because obviously you get through here and you realize that maybe not all of these things are in place that are necessary to move forward. So you go to phase two, which is development. And that has to do with program design, systems design, community engagement. And again, community engagement is going to go through all of this, but you are constantly going to have to be doing that. But you really start kind of honing in on design for the solar, the design of how it's going to work, who it connects to, all of those kinds of things. And this is where you get the more technical site plans with variable system designs completed. You have community business benefits agreements and workforce programs are added to this as well. And then this is where we start also doing a lot of training with the university, with the community. We get the project development support from NREL. We start looking at the capital stack. This is because most of this is not going to be covered by grant funds. You probably are going to have a very small percentage that the grant is going to cover, phase one, phase two. But when you start talking about actually putting the solar in, doing the installation, getting it out to the communities, that's going to be far and above what the grant itself is going to be able to cover. So then we're having to look at a capital stack and creating a capital stack that makes sense. That would be some form of maybe financing, tax credits, grants from other sources, looking at how all of that could be depending upon the school and where it's situated and what they have access to. And then phase three really would be maybe about 38 schools. We'll get to that implementation phase. So we've gone through all of this process in phase two, and about 38 schools out of the entire program will be able to have access to this implementation, which is the actual installation of the solar, the actual connection to the community. And this is really going to where the jobs would actually take place, because those that come through the training program would be able to do the work on the actual university that is connected to. And so this is really important part of what we're doing. So I will pause here and see if there's any questions.
At this time, we don't have any questions in the chat.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's really about our Solar for All program. That's all of the work that we're doing. And both of those programs with our consumer lending program, our Solar for All one with the Texas Coalition, our individual one as well. If you want to know more about any of these programs, this is who you should contact. If you want to know more about the consumer lending program, please contact Theo. He's at the bottom here. That's his email. Please contact him directly and you can find out more about that program as well. Teresa Morales is our program director for Solar for All. That is the CEFTX Solar for All, the multi-state. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to Teresa. This is her email, her number as well. You can reach out to her. And then, of course, if you have questions about the Texas Coalition's Solar for All, then you can reach out to me. This is my email. So that's everybody that's here. Here's our website. Most information is on the website and we're updating daily as well. And if you like access to our newsletter, here's a QR code and you can sign up for our newsletter and we send that out. I think we're doing that like every other month right now, but we'll probably start doing it a little bit more as we start getting more activities and you can keep updated with what we're doing and how we're doing that. So thank you guys for listening to me. I hope you learned something and felt it was worth the 45 minutes of your time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shahar. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So what are the number of states that you're covering with Solar for All for this particular program?
19 states.
19 states, and there'll be, in the end, 38 awardees.
Correct. Yes.
This is highly competitive.
It's very, very competitive. You know, when we were hoping to, be able to get more numbers, but as we were, crunching the numbers, doing the calculations, obviously cost and higher cost, we had to think about that, what it was going to really take to do this work. And what we were finding is that it just in order to be safe and sure that we had enough to go around, 38 was kind of the number that we kept rolling back to.
But do you have any advice for universities who are very interested in this program?
Yes, yes, yes. So first of all, make sure you go to our Solar for All website, which is if you go to cleanfundtex.org, you'll see a drop down for Solar for All. I think in our programs, it's a programs and then a link for Solar for All. You go there, you can get a lot of information there. There is a we just newly uploaded downloadable PDF that you can get that tells you all about the program. And then there's also a link for you to access to do an initial questionnaire. So if you're interested, you want to do that. We need to have at least like the facilities manager, contact with the CFO or whoever is, in charge of the finances, because that's obviously going to be an important decision that has to be made. And then if whoever is on the campus that is really in charge of sustainability or environmental concerns, that could be faculty that's looking into that program. Those are the kind of initial people that need to be part of that initial conversation. So I would say fill out the info sheet, start figuring out who needs to be all a part of that conversation so that we have the stakeholders for the university ready to go and start having those conversations. That's my best advice.
Thank you so much. That's some good advice. Well, we have a few moments. I was going to see if you had, trying to figure out how to not have such glare from the light,
Okay.
but I was going to see if you had a moment and we're open to answering this question because obviously you have strong passion. What is the aspect of this field and energy that you really enjoy this type of work? Would you?
Such a good question. So, I mean, like I tell people, I'm experienced in nonprofit organizations. I have worked with nonprofits for 25 years. When I first kind of got into saying that I wanted to represent nonprofits. It was when I was in law school and I worked for an organization called Advocacy Inc. And what they did at the time was to work with, cities and counties to ensure people have physical access, but the people with disabilities have physical access to buildings. So that was installing ramp ways, making sure there's appropriate amount of handicap parking, those kinds of things. And I really enjoyed the work. And I was just in law school, and I thought, when I came out, I would go into doing that type of work. Working for a nonprofit just didn't work that way. I ended up starting my own practice, and as a part of that, I've always just represented nonprofits. That's a long story to say is that nonprofits has always been a part of my passions. And I've had the pleasure of working with various different types of nonprofits, doing various different things, but most of them have worked in marginalized communities, worked in communities that did not have access to whatever it was that they were doing this, whether it was homelessness, whether it was DEI, whether it was tech, it could be a lot of different things, but communities that were marginalized. So when Steve first came to me about doing a green bank, I had never heard of a green bank. I didn't know what a green bank was. I just was like, this makes no sense to me. I didn't understand it at all. But working with him, I was able to learn, and I have fallen in love with the idea of people giving access, right, to clean energy, because we all need it. And, the people who need it the most have the least amount of access. And that falls right in line with the things that I love to do with working in with marginalized communities, to have access to things that they never would do so without the organization that exists. So sorry for the long answer, but that was it.
That is fantastic. I appreciate that and your openness to sharing. Uh, I also, let's see if there's any more questions in the chat. They're not. So I will say thank you so much for your time. I've learned several new things, and I'm very excited too about. I didn't realize that your funding mechanisms would cover uh, um, uh, changes to a home for people with disabilities, and I love that. That is fantastic. I, if any of you who are attending would like further information, we will have a follow-up email. And again, this presentation and webinar will be uploaded to our YouTube channel within a few days. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you.